I really enjoy working with beginning senior golfers. I love it because I know that if they stick with golf, it'll become a big and very positive part of their life. There was a study done years ago in Sweden, a massive study with over 300,000 active golfers, those who played 1 to 3 times a week. And the results of the study were quite conclusive. Golfers live a longer and healthier life. And why wouldn't they? You know, when you're golfing, you're for 4 hours. You're outside. You're soaking up vitamin D. You're getting steps. Every time you swing a golf club, you're moving your body. You're problem solving, using your mind. You're socializing. You're with friends. Just Google, when you have time, Google golfers live longer. It'll be quite a motivating read. Now, most beginning seniors, typically those who retire, start playing golf after they retire, never break 100. But the seniors I work with normally break 100 within the first year. And they very often break 90 soon after that. So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly how I help beginning senior golfers progress so quickly. Hello, senior golfers. My name's Phil Moore. Thanks for being here. In this video, I'm going to explain how I help beginning seniors improve quickly. You know, Tiger Woods grew up here in Southern California. His dad, Earl, taught him how to swing a golf club when he was only 2 years old. And his mother, Tita, took him to his first lesson when he was 4 years old. They went to Hartwell Golf Course. It's a par 3 golf course here in Southern California, 18 par 3s. All under 150 yards long. And the pro there was Rudy Duran. And Rudy could see that Tiger could hit the ball well, even at 4 years old. He was a little 4 years old, just a little guy, but he had a cut-off 7-iron, a cut-off putter, and a cut-off 2-wood. And so Rudy immediately took him to the golf course. And he said, "Okay, Tiger, we're going to try to make pars." You know, Rudy he made Tiger his own personal par. He said all the holes that were within 100 yards, within 100 yards, there was 5 of them. He said those are par 3s. And all the other holes that are over 100 yards, there's 13 of them, that was par 4s. So we told Tiger, okay, your personal par is 67. So we're going to try to make pars. And it worked out. Tiger did. He started making pars and birdies right away. And by the time he was 5, he was consistently breaking par in his own personal par. One time, I think he got 8 under par. So as they progressed as a golfer, they kept him competing against kids his own level, competing against 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. And because he was so talented, he would always win. And that was building confidence. He built confidence by being able to break par, his own personal par at Hartwell, and by continuously beating kids, his own age. He went on to win, I think, 6 junior world titles, and he won 3 U.S. amateur titles later as he grew older. He won 3 in a row. I think the only person in history to do that. And then he turned pro in 1996. Now, another interesting story was Michelle Wie, who was 14 years younger than Tiger. Michelle grew up in Hawaii and was probably, as a youngster, was even more talented than Tiger. Tiger was young, was little as a 4, 5, 6-year-old. Michelle was tall, and she hit the ball a long ways, a lot farther than any girl that she played with. She hit the ball farther than any of the boys that she played with. And maybe for that reason, her parents had her competing against older, stronger players right away. In fact, when she was 14 years old, they got a sponsor's exemption. They got her into the Sony Open, the men's tour event in Hawaii. You know, Michelle knew the course really well, and they were hoping maybe she could make the cut. She'd be the only modern-day woman to make a cut on a men's tour event. The last time a woman made a cut on a men's tour event was in 1945. Babe Dietrichson, I think it was the Phoenix Open. Since then, no woman has ever made a cut at a men's tour event. Well, in 2004, playing in the Sony Open, she played really brilliant golf. I think it was 72, 68, really outstanding golf, only missed the cut by 1 stroke. Then, it kind of as the story goes on, they brought in Ledbetter David Ledbetter started working on her swing technique and started learning to hit the ball even farther. And they wanted her to keep pursuing this goal of making a cut on a men's tour event. And they entered her in the next 3 Sony Opens in Hawaii. She never did make the cut. And they put her in, I think, 4 other men's tour events and never did make the cut. Now, when you look back in their careers, how their careers involved as pros, it was very different. Tiger, even though he lost a lot of competitive playing time later in his career due to injuries, he won 82 times on the PGA Tour, and he won 15 majors. A remarkable, unbelievable career. He's always arguably considered to be the greatest golfer of all time. They debate that him or Jack Nicklaus or Ben Hogan or Bobby Jones. It's always debated who is the greatest golfer of all time. Now, Michelle had a good, successful career. She won 5 times on the LPGA Tour, and she won the U.S. one major, won the I think it was 2014 Women's U.S. Open. So it was a solid career, but not what they had that hope for. They had thought because of her immense length that she could have followed Tiger's footsteps and been as dominant on the LPGA Tour as Tiger was on the PGA Tour. It just didn't work out. Why it didn't work out, who knows? You can speculate. Did her parents move her too fast? Did she get too much into technique and distance? Who knows? I don't know. I just like Rudy's approach better in working with scoring and playing skills as opposed to distance and swing technique. Now, another story, about 12 years ago, when I was at Goose Creek, I was starting the junior program at Goose Creek, and I only had a handful of kids, and I wanted it to be a big junior program. So I noticed that Will Robbins, a PGA pro in Sacramento, California, it was enormously successful in working with kids. So I went up and spent 3 days with Will to learn how to run a junior program, and he taught me. And he guided me, and I was very successful using his ideas, and came back to Goose Creek and created one of the biggest junior programs in Southern California. It's still going on today. I'm very proud of it. But while I was up in Sacramento, what really was eye-opening for me was working with Will. First of all, he was so passionate about teaching. He has so much energy. He's so passionate. But how he worked with adults, I found it so refreshing because he was using old school philosophy, the same that I had learned 50 years ago. Keep the ball in play, work in your short game. He was emphatic about that, and I thought that was great. And his students were progressing quickly. He was just emphatic about keep the ball in play. If you couldn't if your driver was too wild, you took the driver out of the bag. If you couldn't hit a fairway, you took that out of the bag, hybrid out of the bag, whatever you could. He said you have to use whatever club that you can keep in play. If you eventually learn to hit a driver straight, you can bring it back, but not until you have to keep the ball in play. And then Will said he called the scoring zone within 100 yards of the hole. He said that's the scoring zone. Once you get within 100 yards of the hole, you got to get up and down 3. And Will really focused heavily on putting and chipping and pitching and part swings. He really put a spotlight of his focus on that, getting up and down 3. Now, as far as you hear about greens and regulation, for example, the par 3, you're supposed to get on a 1 and 2 putt. They call it 1. If you get on 1, it's a green and regulation. And a par 4, if you can get on 2, that's a green and regulation. A par 5, you can get down in 3. Get on the green in 3, that's a green and regulation. Will didn't care about greens and regulations. He just wanted you to be within the scoring zone in regulation. With a par 5, par 3, he's safely down the fairway within 100 yards of regulation. And a par 4, 2 shots, you get within 100 yards of regulation. A par 5, 3 shots, get within 100 yards of regulation. That's all he cared about. Keep the ball in play, and once you're within 100 yards, get up and down 3. That was his game plan. Will had, at the time, when I first started working with him, he was working on what he called the scoring method. He's got a book now called The Scoring Method. He's got a website, thescoringmethod.com. I've highly recommended his book to golfers and to coaches. It's good stuff. It really takes a deep dive into this old school game plan. So I highly recommend his stuff. So when I myself When I was teaching up until that time, I always emphasized playing skills. I thought that was the key. What you can control on the golf course. I talked about this a lot in earlier videos. I talked a lot about it in my book, in Understanding Golf, and also in the Mad Science of Golf, my books. I talk about playing skills. You control on the golf course. You can control what play you select, what club you select. You can control what intent you have, how you set up the ball, what you're thinking about when you're swinging, and how you respond. Those are the playing skills, and I emphasize that a lot. So now when I started working with beginning senior golfers, what I do is I just incorporated the 3 ideas. I took Will Robbins' game plan: keep the ball in play, get up and down once you're in the scoring zone in 3 shots. I used Rudy Durant's personal pars, and myself, my own playing skills, developing your playing skills. So I put them together. I came up with my own plan. So when I work with a beginning senior, as quickly as possible, I get them on the golf course. As soon as they get competent ball striking skills, can hit the ball, get the ball in play, we go on the golf course. And we'll go on the golf course and play like 3 holes. And we always go to the first tee. For example, this is the first hole at Goose Creek. It's a straightaway par 4. There's 2 sand traps in the fairway, a greenside sand trap, trees on left and right. And there's 4 tees at Goose Creek. The up tee is 268, and the back tee is 381. I talk all beginning students, like Rudy Durant. I start them out in the number 1 tee, the first tee. I tell them that there's pace of play in golf. When you get on a golf course, they expect you to play 9 holes in 2 hours, 18 holes in 4 hours. That's what's expected of you. You're a beginning golfer. You have to stay up. You're going to be slow. You have to start in the forward tees, and they accept it. They don't argue with me. But really, the real reason I want them up here, because I want them to start scoring, right off the bat. Then I tell them about Will's game plan. We're going to try to get within 100 yards in 2 shots, and then we're going to try to get the scoring zone, and then we're going to try to get in the hole 3 more shots. So it's going to be a bogey. 2 within 100 yards, 3 more in the hole. That's what we're going to, that's going to be our goal. Then I had them work with the playing skills. I had them hit 2 balls. Whenever I'm giving a playing lesson, I said, we're going to play a 2-ball scramble. You get to hit 2 balls off the tee, take a little pressure off them, and you get to pick whichever one you want, the best one. And then you're going to hit 2 second shots, and you get to pick the best one. And all the way until you hole out. You get to hit 2 balls every time, and you get to select the best one. So then while I'm working with them, I can just emphasize the playing skills over and over and over. What play you're going to select, what club you're going to select, where you're going to aim, what you're going to think about when you're swinging, how you're going to respond. All the time we're talking about the playing skills using Will Robbins' game plan. Now at Goose Creek, we have, from the number 1 tee, there's 5 par 3s, and from the number 1 tee, they're all within 100 yards. So on those holes, you're already within the scoring zone. So on those holes, we're trying to make a 3, or trying to make a par. So you have on 13 holes, you're trying to make a bogey, and on those other 5, you're trying to make a par. So your personal par, I tell them, is like Rudy Durant's personal par with Tiger. Your personal par is 84. Now they haven't even thought about 84 because they're beginning golfers. They're always told, breaking 100, you'd be lucky if you ever in your life break 100. They never even in their wildest dreams thought about 84. But I want to, right off the bat, get it in their mind. This, you can do this. You're just going to keep the ball in play, avoid sand traps, avoid trees. If you can hit, right from the beginning, if you can hit a driver into this here, you're not going to hit a driver. It's too slow, it's too narrow to get in between. It's less than 40 yards. You don't hit the ball far enough to get over. If you try to, you're going to end up hitting into the trees. You're just going to play safe. If you fade the ball, you're going to aim over here. And so you use the whole fairway to hit into. If from here, the sand trap comes into play, you're going to aim over here and take a club where you can't get into the sand trap. It's always advance the ball safely down the fairway. They're going to learn that. And then once you're within 100 yards, you got to get up and down 3. And I, like Will, try to emphasize putting and chipping and pitching and part swings and get better at that. So this is how they start out, just like Rudy. And as they progress, I like them to stay, ideally, I like them to stay on the number one tee until they, with one ball, they can easily break 100. Hopefully, if they can break 90, and then if they want to, they can slowly go back. But I emphasize scoring and playing skills over distance and swing technique. I know today there's a big emphasis on distance and swing technique. That's the modern way of coaching, and I don't agree with it. I'm much more in line with Will Robbins or Rudy Duran. So that's just a little quick explanation how I help seniors grow quickly. I hope you liked it. This is the 5th series in my video series of Effortless Senior Golf. If you like this series, I hope you subscribe below. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, or you can contact me directly at philsgolf.com. You know, hopefully I'll be happy to work with you. Looking forward to answering your questions and work with you. So meanwhile, thank you. I just want to thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on my next video.